Ma'am, we're just 1 minute short of 6:30. So
Yep,
we'll wait another minute and we can start at sharp
sure.
6:30.
There would be a small introduction from your side first, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Done.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. A very, very good evening to everyone who has joined us for this last day of this session of this FTP. It has been a very exciting journey. It has been a learning experience for us as well. It was a well thought, well curated event. And for this last session, I would like to invite Dr. Tanjul Saxena for this to address us, to help us learn more. And before I begin, I'd like to formally introduce her to you. Dr. Tanjul Saxena for you. A trainer by passion, a teacher by heart, and a researcher by compulsion. She has a great sense of humor, by the way. Dr. Tanjul Saxena is presently working as professor and principal Mahatma Gandhi College of Hospital Administration. That's a constituent college of Mahatma Gandhi University of Medical Sciences and Technology. She has a total 30 years of experience that encapsulates over a decade of corporate exposure, in addition to teaching, training, and consultancy in the realm of management. She's a professor of organizational behavior, human resource management, and organizational change and development. She has immense exposure to management training, from design to impeccable delivery. A national trainer and OD interventionist of repute, she has been retained by prestigious clients pan India. She has successfully carried out consultancy assignments and has been a principal investigator in research projects of reputed clients like UNICEF, GAIN, Basics, Save the Children, Sight Savers, and Our Mall Cuts, to name a few. A PhD in management and MBA with additional postgraduate degrees in sociology and business administration, Dr. Tanjul Saxena possesses a worldview of interdisciplinary education. She has 3 anthologies, 2 books, and about 40 papers and cases to her credit in the realm of education and management. Her last assignment was that of an associate professor at the IIHMR University for a decade, an adjunct appointment with Johns Hopkins University, Baltimore, USA for half a decade. So this is just a brief profile. I can go on and on. So that is Dr. Tanjul Saxena for you, ma'am. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Swati. I know I'm being presumptuous by calling doctor, but I understand in a couple of years, sooner than later, you would be a doctor. So it's very happy listening to that. It's been a long time that I'm hearing your voice so clear with
You're
your
very kind, ma'am.
with your very beautiful accent. And moving on from the Mutual Admiration Club, good evening to all my fellow colleagues, and thank you for bearing with me because I know I little goofed up on the time today. I'm a compulsive time manager. I don't like even a second being wasted, but I had to make you all change your schedule by about an hour because of some compulsion that was beyond my control. Before I begin, I would like to understand from all of you Are you all comfortable in English, or would you like to have mixed language or Hindi, or I'm only confident in these two languages? Any suggestion?
The participants, if you want bilingual, you can put it in the chat box. I'll share. Are you okay with English, or we can go bilingual, Hindi and English?
I think we
English
can
is
start in
okay?
English.
I think everybody's okay with English. We don't have any response for bilingual.
Yes,
Yes, we got a yes for English.
done.
Ma'am, excuse me, before we start, I just want to take
Yes, I'm so sorry, Angela.
yeah. Requesting all the participants to put on their camera so that we can capture the last day, cherishingly. Kindly, participants, but I think we need to first stop the share.
Okay, just 1 second. Yep.
1 minute.
Ma'am, we need you on camera. We need you to see that bright smile of yours.
I don't know my background, how it looks like, but whatever it is, I'm putting it on.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you're looking as fabulous as ever.
You're very kind.
Participants, I request all of you to please put on your cameras and show their sweet smile. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
I'm not able to see the participants. Okay, the
Video is
video is
disabled.
Okay, fine.
Just a second, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yes, now you can.
Okay. Just a moment.
Yeah, the participants can now put on their videos. I've kind of done that. Ma'am, please retry. I have just allowed everyone to start their videos.
Yes, ma'am. I'm continuing.
There's a participant who put a query. You can retry, please.
Yeah, ma'am. Just a moment. Yes, ma'am. Done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And you can start.
Thank you. I'm sharing my screen again. Okay, all good to go? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Done. So, my dear friends, it's a very interesting session that I have been entrusted with because there's no textbook syllabus of knowing what exactly is the effective classroom. May I please request you to mute your microphones?
I'll do that. I've muted, ma'am.
Thank you. You know, it's very interesting. There's no textbook, no chapter, no journal that actually talks about what exactly is the effective classroom. There are some, even in B.Ed, you will find, there are certain ways of handling your class, and there are certain tools and pedagogy that you can use in your class to make it more effective. But believe me, what I'm going to talk today, you would really not find it in any of the textbooks, except for a couple of things. Reason being, this is an amalgamation of whatever I have learned throughout my 30 years of academic journey and another 120 or more years of academic journey with my colleagues. I have seen good teachers, very good teachers, brilliant teachers, and teachers who have transcended the definition of teacher and have become gurus. And throughout this journey, I have observed them very closely. I have been fortunate enough to have very deep discussions with them, more like, walks in the corridor and the gallery conversations and everything, and understand what exactly makes your teaching very effective. And the moment we talk about classroom becomes the moment of truth. Now, that's the moment of truth of your entire journey, where the point that you decided to become a teacher, either by choice or by chance, the point that you, entered your first job, the moment you stepped onto your academic institution for the first time, and repeatedly, day on day, week on week, month on month, year on year, When you stand in the classroom, that's the moment of truth, which makes you something that is absolutely to be revered. Not every teacher becomes a guru. And believe me, you don't have to. Like every profession, we have teaching profession where you transcend different stairs, different ladders. And some people stop at be it at instructor, some people become teachers, some people become coaches, some people become mentors, and some people, the very blessed ones, become gurus. We all don't have to really become gurus, but I'm very sure many of you have had the blissful company of your gurus at some point of time or other. So, taking the names of our gurus and Mata Saraswati and Ganapati, let us start rolling this particular session. And I pray that whatever 90 minutes or so we are investing in that, that becomes something that blesses us forever. Like I said in my introduction, it's very interesting to understand teaching is a profession that not everybody takes by choice. I'm sorry I'm saying that, but it may be hurtful to some of us, but that's the truth. Not many of us, when we were very young, I'm very sure when you were very, very young in standard 5, 6 or so, the moment you start having a favorite teacher and you became a favorite student of one of your teachers, you had that मैं भी बड़े होके teacher बनूंगी, मैं भी बड़े होके teacher बनूंगा. And all our drawing room walls became blackboards and our crayons became chalks. And there's not a single child I have seen who have not taught their own parents and their dada dadi and their nana nani everything that they have studied in school. Unfortunately, that passion towards teaching stops the moment we enter 10th or 12th. When you ask people in 10th and 12th, very rarely somebody will say that I would like to become a teacher. But the good news is, in every profession, be it medicine, be it engineering, be it aeronautical engineering, be it social sciences, be it languages, be it understanding history, in all subjects we require teachers. People who do not come into teaching profession by choice, some of them come here by chance. So it's not by design. My colleagues who are doing B.Ed, they are here in this profession by choice. That is why they are undergoing a very grueling training. But there are people who come here by chance. Maybe, they are into that stage, especially women. And they are a stage of relocation because of matrimony or having a child, and they have had a break from their career, corporate careers, and then they want to re-enter and they think maybe teaching is a little softer platform where they can go. Since there are people who are both by chance and by choice, our apex authorities like the UGC, like the AICTE, like CBSE, etc., etc. I'm talking about higher education, so AICTE and UGC I'm talking about mainly. It was pretty late that these apex authorities decided, in fact, they came to this realization that not everybody is a born teacher. And since they are not a born teacher, they must have what we call a MSP. All teachers must have an MSP. MSP, like we say, minimum support price. Similarly, MSP here basically means a minimum service promise. If teachers do not have a minimum service promise, the whole responsibility of teachers towards the generation would then be diluted. So, let me show you something. UGC came up with a very interesting concept of Bloom's taxonomy. It was not UGC that came up with this taxonomy. Bloom was a gentleman who was not born in India, and his taxonomy has been there forever. But UGC adopted and started promoting the Bloom's taxonomy. Just hold here for 1 second. I will like you to appreciate something very, very interesting. My colleagues from social sciences, those who teach demography, sociology, etc., they understand, and others who do not, let me take a minute to help you appreciate this. Every country has a demography pyramid. We call this a pyramid. It's three-dimensional, so it is pyramid. On the screen, I made it two-dimensional, so it looks like a triangle. All countries have a demography pyramid in which there are three layers. The first layer is that of children. The second layer is that of youth. The third layer is that of old age people, which we call the geriatric population. Now, what happened was, just give me one moment, I needed a little more space. So I will include a blank slide here and then continue. So one moment. Yeah. Okay. So every country has a demography pyramid, which looks like this. The speed of the pyramid could be different. The steep of the pyramid, it could be like this, it could be like this, any kind of pyramid, but all countries have a triangular kind of a structure of their demography. Now, what happened was in 1960s or so, both India and China, they started working on their population problem because there was literally an explosion in population. There was a lot of people around. It was expected that the earth will crumble on the weight of the population. So both of the countries, the neighboring country China and our dear Bharat, we started having a policy for population control. Just to check, am I audible? Am I with you?
Yes.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. So what happened was India went for a two-children policy. China went for a one-child policy. Fair enough. Every country has right to decide their, the bigger policies. Every country has the right to think about what way to steer their economy and what could be the different kind of things that they can do for making their countries better. Now, what happened was 70 years down the line, India and China both came at a position where they had to relook at what is happening on the end of their. Just one second. Yeah. What is happening at the end of their population? Lo and behold, the China's population graph became inverted. The number of geriatric population was this, youth was this, and children were this. I will stall the India's population pyramid for a while and just throw a little light here. Now, please imagine, I always say, when it comes to men and women, the career graph for a man goes like this, and the career graph for a woman goes like this. Where there's a time when the lady has to, because you enter career at the age of 18, and between 18 to 30 you get married, you have a child. So there's a dip in the career, and then you again take this kind of a career. Now imagine a time at this point of time, in China, there would be one man, I'm deliberately using the word man, it could be any man or woman, who has 5 mouths to feed. One own, one of spouse, one of one living parent of his, one of one living parent of spouse, and one child. Why? Because single child policy. The spouse also is the only child, so the responsibility of one living parent of the spouse would fall upon this man only. So imagine one youth has to feed 2 youth, 2 old people, and 1 child. And look at the pyramid, it's like it's going in a direction which is absolutely haywire. Since it's going in a direction which is absolutely haywire, now they have reversed their policy and they are starting to encourage people to get married, to have more children. In fact, they are giving incentive. They are incentivizing having more children. Let's talk about India. What did India do? India came up with the 2 children policy, and India's demographic pyramid is now morphing into a diamond. It's not exactly this. If you Google India population yesterday and today, you will find a very beautiful morphing of pyramid to a diamond. Not exactly the shape, but looking quite similar. And if you further start analyzing this, you will find some very interesting patterns. This is the youth, this is child category, and this is old age category. Now, this category, which is, the biggest category here, is giving us what we call demographic dividend. You must have heard this word, our respected Honorable Prime Minister uses this word very often, and he always talks about demographic dividend. Now, this demographic dividend can become demographic disaster if the youth goes haywire. That's precisely the reason, again, that we are not promoting our youth to take up jobs. We are promoting our youth to become entrepreneurs. Because as a job seeker, you're seeking a job. But as an entrepreneur, you're creating jobs and you're creating jobs and you're giving jobs. Believe me, the number of entrepreneurship ventures that came in one last decade is about 7 times the number of entrepreneurship ventures that happened in the last 5 decades. And that is why we came up with complementary schemes like Make in India and a single window system and all kind of tax relaxations and everything, so that people, youth especially, would create more jobs. Now, why I am talking about this? I'm talking about this because I want you to appreciate what I was talking here. When we started talking about minimum service promise, the idea here is anyone in teaching, whether coming here by choice or by chance, must make a service which is of a minimum standard, which will ensure that our youth actually converts into demographic dividend and does not become a demographic disaster. I want you to appreciate that there's a big responsibility on our shoulders, people like you and me, that we need to steer, we need to show the beacon of light to our youth in the right direction, so that all of them actually create a new India, make India become visible on the map of the universe, and do not go haywire. Now, with that in mind, the most appropriate taxonomy that UGC could think of was the Bloom's taxonomy. Forget the left-hand side, what I have written there, not only for learning outcomes, because that's a little debatable. We'll come back to it a little later. What we need to understand is, this taxonomy again is pyramidal. If you see here, it's pyramidal in nature. It starts with the first level of remembering, goes to the next level of understanding, next level of applying, next to analyzing, followed by evaluation, and final followed by creation. Every single teacher, I like talking like using the word teacher. I don't like using professor or faculty. So you will just listen to me with a lot of teaching and teacher word in during the session. Every single teacher must ensure that minimum these 3 levels are met. All our students need to come at least up till this level, and bringing them up to this level is our responsibility. We all know that in any class, people will not come with the same IQ, students will not come with the same IQ. They will differ in their IQ, their SQ, their EQ, their social backgrounds are different, their economic backgrounds are different, and they don't come with the same motivation. And unfortunately, still we come from an ecosystem where education is something that results into employment. Education is not per se for the sake of education and enjoyment. We don't pursue a particular degree because we enjoy the subject. We don't pursue a particular field or logy, or say, for example, there are hardly any colleges which offer theology. Theology is a subject that doesn't give you any kind of economic platform to build up your career upon. Unfortunately, over a period of time, our I wouldn't say just India, but almost whole universe, the bigger earth, we have started confusing life and livelihood. And all our education has become livelihood oriented. It might look like as if I'm making very tall claims, but believe me, many of us can earn equivalent or more if we just open a food truck or a chai ki thadi outside our colleges. But we don't do it. We can earn, if I just make a dosa corner around my house, morning evening 2 hours, I'll earn the same money that I earn now, and remaining day I can do what I want to do. I can study something, I can dance, I can sing, I can play, I can enjoy company of my friends, I can watch in the loop Netflix series and everything. Studying a particular subject is not out of joy. It is out of compulsion, because ultimately it must lead to some kind of economic activity which will give you some kind of livelihood. Now, with this restriction in hand and with this problem around the corner, the apex authorities have to have a framework. I was very upset initially when in my college we were, not this one but the previous college, when they started having those course outcome, program outcome, learning outcome, and POCO mapping, and the Bloom's taxonomy, and having a plan of evaluation, etc., etc. It felt very constricted. I felt very claustrophobic. I said, I'm losing my academic freedom and I don't want to do that. And I'm very sure many of us in the heart of the heart sometimes feel that. But as I became a resource person in UGC faculty development programs, and I started, exploring more, I realized, how do I ensure that somebody with a genuine intention is delivering the same level in the class, or somebody not with the right intention is delivering at the same level in the class as the other person who is absolutely passionate about the subject and teaching. So a minimum framework is required. To have a quality product, you must have quality processes. And all of us knows we have gone through the history of quality development in our country. Initially, it was ISI mark. You must have everything ISI marked. You must have something that has some kind of a quality check. Okay. But over a period of time, we moved from product quality to process quality. We said if the processes are standardized, if everybody follows the same process, what they are claiming that they are following, the output would be good. Because the model that looks like is input, process, output, outcome. So if the teacher, if the student is right, if the process is right, the result would be right, and the result would ultimately result into development of the country, because the youth would be contributing here. Is it too much to ask for? The answer is no. So somewhere down the line, Bloom's taxonomy gives you a minimum service promise. Now let us try to understand what is it. The first level is remembering. Am I doing something right in the class that my students are able to recall facts and basic concepts? For example, after today's class, would you be able to define what is Bloom's taxonomy? Would you be able to repeat at least the first 3 levels of Bloom's taxonomy? If I have used the word Bloom's taxonomy at least a dozen times in the last 20 minutes, I'm sure that at any point of time somebody talks about Bloom's taxonomy, you would know, yes, I know that. And that's the remembering level. Remembering level. Repeat, list, memorize, duplicate, define, state. And that also reflects in this particular thing, output. So if in my continuous assessment, what UGC asks us to do, if in my continuous assessment, if I can have a very quick 5-question quiz every week, every Saturday, just letting my students, explore. Just letting my, am I with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just letting my students explore that, just 1 second, I lost track. All right. Letting my students explore what I taught in the whole week. And if out of a multiple choice question, they're able to tick mark the right answer, that means give me just 1 second. Sorry for the interruption. I'm back. Yeah. So, out of a multiple choice question, if my students can have pick up the right answer, I'm very sure I have delivered at least this level. Now, let's try to come to the second level of understanding. So, how many of you now feel that Bloom's taxonomy is something that has not been imposed upon us, but yes, there was a requirement of it? Can I really have a simile to this? Simile to Bloom's taxonomy? Yes, there are so many similes. For example, when you conduct a training program, you have an evaluation of the training program based on certain methods, and there is another Kirkpatrick model which is very similar to Bloom's taxonomy. If you look at Maslow's need hierarchy theory, those who do not know, please go and check it out today. It's the universal theory which has been accepted for years and would be there for years. If we talk about the 5 levels of Maslow's need hierarchy theory, which starts with the physiological needs, followed by security needs, followed by love and belongingness, followed by self-esteem, and followed by self-actualization. It's very similar to Bloom's taxonomy. What Maslow's need hierarchy theory does for psychology, Bloom's taxonomy does for education. So, am I able to actually relate that, understand this in relation to some concepts that I have already understood? Can I really apply it? For example, if next time when I enter my class after the chapter is over, if I give them a very quick, a Google form or maybe a very quick online test where they are doing just 10 questions and having their answers immediately, and anybody getting 7 out of 10 would get a chocolate, I think I have already applied the Bloom's taxonomy. Now, this is the minimum service promise that all of us need to promise ourselves and to our profession, to our gods, and to the apex authority, our college and our apex authority, that is UGC, that yes, come what may, whether I am a teacher by choice or by chance, this is the minimum that I would deliver. In class, every class, class on class, day on day, week on week, month on month, year on year, and career on career. Now, next is if you are able to deliver this much, you become a good instructor. Let's move from being instructor to a teacher. So I can really kindle the intrigue and the interest of my students so that they can start analyzing, they can start examining, they can start organizing, they can start comparing, they can start questioning. Some kind of connection amongst ideas. I have been able to move from this level to this level. Can I put them in a situation where they can, I'll give you a couple of examples from every stream in the next slide. Can I pick their interest in such a manner that they can actually start questioning things and start thinking about it and start relating it from different perspectives? For instance, let me just take a very small example. Now, we talk about different species, different kind of species. Now, there's a very interesting species in our mythology. I won't call it mythology, but in our epics. And the species is known as Vanar. Let me write it down here. I think all of you understand this much of Hindi, so you would not be troubled by this. There's something known as Vanar. I do not know why, but most of the times Hanumanji is portrayed as a monkey man. Foreigners call him monkey man. He was not a monkey man. He was a Vanar. And Vanar primarily means वन में रहने वाले नर. वन में रहने वाले नर. Just try to think. Any version of Ramayana, there's one presently going on, Srimad Ramayana. Any version of Ramayana that you have seen, you have read, you have heard. Have you ever seen Sugriv or Bali having a monkey wife? The wives of Sugriv and Bali were the same clan as Hanumanji. They had the same mouth structure, they had the same tail, they had the same amount of hair on their body, and they had the same physical agility to jump from one tree to another tree. But if you look at the lady clan, the female gender of Vanar Jati, you will never find them in they portrayed as monkeys. It was a crossbreed. It was a crossbreed between humans and males who lived in forests. Such an interesting concept. Now, this analysis, there are ample stories that I can take, but for the paucity of time, I would not go into all those details, but I would certainly talk about some of them over a period of time. Now, please appreciate that another very small example. Most of you come from Maharashtra because you are based out of Mumbai. You would know that all of us celebrate something known as Shitla Ashtami. Shitla Ashtami is Sharad Purnima. Sharad Purnima is the Purnima of Sharad. Now there are 12 months, 4 seasons. Purnima comes every month, every season. Why do we celebrate Sharad Purnima? And how do we celebrate it? We normally we make some paisam or kheer and we put it on our terrace. We cover it with a muslin cloth, and whole night we let the rays of the moon absorb the energy of the moon, and next day morning we eat it, and we try to put a dhaga into sui. And some people try to make ghee and chini and kali mirch they mix it all together, pisi hui chini, and then they put it on terrace and eat that as a prasad next morning. Now, very interesting, it's a custom that we all are following. Have you ever thought, why do we do it? In the old times, there were no refrigerators. Whatever milk would come home, either it has to be used or it has to be converted into dahi or some other form so that it doesn't get spilled. Sharad Purnima basically meant, and whatever you would cook, you had to eat the same day. Sharad Purnima is the onset of winters. So if you are making kheer in the night and keeping it throughout the night on the terrace, and next day morning it's still good to eat, it's not gone stale, that means the winters have onset. That means now you really don't have to worry about taking care of the things on the same day, especially the edibles. If something is left over, you can keep it for the next day. They will not go stale because the temperatures are more favorable to keeping it safe. And then 3-4 months later, you have another thing known as basoda, where you make everything, all the food a previous day, and next day you don't cook, you don't lit fire, and you only have, this basa khana, and it's known as basoda.
Oh, ma'am, here they call it Shitla Ashtami, I suppose. Something
Yeah,
like
that's called Shitla Ashtami, maybe. Yes. Yes. So, very interestingly, that is another thing, another ritual that tells you today is the last day you can have basa. Today is the last day you can have thanda khana. Today is the last day you can have leftover. Because there's again a change in season. And next day onwards, if you have rakha hua khana, you will aap bimar pad jayenge. There's so much of logic. Now, this logic is what I say, analysis. We have been following it. I know almost most of you would be doing at least one of these. But many a times we do not know the logic behind it. Start analyzing things. Now, if we can pick the interest of our students so that they can start analyzing things, I think we have graduated from instructor level to a teacher's level. And from here comes the next level where the intellectual, the intellectual bone or the nerve starts tickling. Now, this is where the students start having the courage of conviction to argue, defend, judge, question, critique, appraise, weigh things. They start questioning things. Why is it like that? Why is it not like that? Why should this happen? Is Ganesha having the head of an elephant? Is it something to do with very advanced organ transplant surgery at that point of time? Those who have read Amish's Shiva trilogy, they would understand. One book and that gives you, insights into economy, into medical science, into nuclear warfare, into sociology, into which not logic is present there in such an entertaining and engaging way. So evaluation is something where you have sufficient backdrop and sufficient, some kind of a intellectual backup in your system that you have courage of conviction to question the theories. Let me give you a very interesting example. I was talking about Maslow's theory, and those who have read a little bit of management, they would know about father of scientific management, Frederick Wilson Taylor. No, Frederick Wilson Taylor, for that matter, even Maslow's and the standard operating procedure that I was talking about. We talk about things, written down and doing in a certain way and going by standard operating procedure. So one fine day, about a decade ago, I went to one of the classrooms, and there I said, I think we should all hang them into Hall of Fame. These are all very old schools of thoughts. So one student asked me, "Ma'am, then why are they still in the textbooks?" I said, that's not their fault, beta. That's the fault of the authors. That's the fault of people like us. People like us do not write, and those who have written, they are basking in the glory of something that they wrote 20 years ago and still continuing. And then as I started teaching, and I took them for an industrial tour somewhere, and I realized in a very small restaurant like McDonald's, when you ask for French fries, there's a standard operating procedure that you have to take out the fries. There's a boiling, there's a boiler there in which there is boiling oil, and you have to put the strainer in the French fries exactly for 1 minute 26 seconds, and exactly after that you have to take it out. So I asked them. I said, my daughter requires a little more golden French fries. Can you please put it more two more seconds there? He said no. The person who was on the boiler. I said, why? He said, that's the instruction being given to me, and we have to strictly go by that. And believe me, I had to bring back Frederick Wilson Taylor from the Hall of Fame and put him again in the book, because I realized we have gone the whole circle and we are again going by the scientific style of management, where you do a time study, a motion study, a work study, and you exactly go by what is to be done, because every single McDonald will give you the same amount of crunchiness and goldenness on the French fries, whether you are having it in US or you are having it in Singapore or in Africa or in a small gully of Mumbai or Jaipur. So this courage of conviction to question, to evaluate things. Is it relevant? Why are we still following it? What relevance does it has now? Imagine China, a big country like China, reversing back their child policy, their family planning policy, and encouraging people to have more children. And then finally, the last level known as create. Can we really push our students, motivate our students, inspire our students to a level where they can think of creating? Now, what do they create? They create new knowledge. They create new business. They create new, ideas. Why is it that in the last 3 years, we had 3 seasons of Shark Tank, and never before that we heard about something known as Shark Tank? I hope all of you understand what I'm talking about in terms of Shark Tank. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
Okay. Now,
Yes, ma'am.
that's all about, creating. Can we really, really take some of our students to that level where they can start creating? I would take a moment and come here again because I need to. Okay. I needed to discard the annotations. Yep. Now, when I say that these levels, I'm also a little worried about why we talk about program outcomes, learning outcomes. And why is it that teachers make learning outcomes? The learners are supposed to make learning outcomes. But possibly the thinkers, the people who are at the helm of affairs of making policies for education, they think that learners are naive and they would not know what would be the learning outcomes, or they would keep very unchallenging kind of outcomes That is why teachers are responsible to talk about learning outcomes. But believe me, Bloom's taxonomy is not just learning outcomes, it's also teaching outcomes. How? Every time you stand at the threshold of your classroom, please tell yourself, my today's session is anchored here. Next day, my today's session is anchored here. Next two sessions, anchored here. Next half a session, anchored here. Further next session, anchored here. I don't say that all of my 100% students would be able to traverse this journey. No. They may not have willingness, they may not have ability. They may not have performance, they may not have potential. 100% of my students, I will take them till here. 100% of them. 100% of my students, I would take them at least till the remembering aspect. I would try taking 100% of them up till understand aspect. There could be some filtering. These would be the students who would pass, barely pass, but at least pass in first attempt or second attempt, doesn't matter. If I can bring 70% of my students to application level, I have done my duty as an instructor. I have justified my salary. If 50% of my students can actually traverse to the position of analysis, I'm going beyond my salary and I'm giving back to God what God gave to me. If 25% people of my students can come to the evaluation level, enjoy the subject, look forward to the next session, enjoy taking the examination of my subject, I'm being true to myself. If just 2% of my people can come to this level, this is the PhD level. Every time you take up a PhD topic, you start thinking of a PhD topic, the question that your supervisor must be asking you is, what is the new knowledge that you are trying to create or trying to contribute to the subject matter? If just 2% of my students fall so much in love with my subject that they actually start thinking about taking up teaching as a profession, getting into esoteric research related to the subject, मेरा दिल ये जीवन तो मेरा सफल हो गया और शायद यही मेरा प्रोफेशनल मोक्ष है. This is my professional salvation. Let us take one very interesting example. I would like you to appreciate this. You remember at the time of Corona? At the time of Corona, UGC and CBSC, they were struggling in terms of how to go about, judging people, because March 26th, we went for the first lockdown, and they did not know that was precisely the peak season for examination, and the apex authorities were struggling how to evaluate children so that the year doesn't go waste. They have studied, we cannot call it a zero year. How do we promote people? Now let us try to understand something. This is a video, but we are not playing it because it will take a little time. It's a 10-minute video. I will pass it on to Dr. Swati and or the organizers, and they will further pass it on to your group. Please see this video later. I think most of us know that over a period of time, there are certain generations that have come and gone. And generations are defined as a cohort of people who have experienced the same events and things in life. For example, my generation would be Generation X, your could be Generation Y or Z, and the present generation is Generation Alpha. It's a concept of sociology, it's a concept of philosophy, it's a concept of social sciences, it's a concept of psychology, but it cuts across everybody because all of us would be able to relate to it. Now, I have deliberately taken this example. I'm not playing the video, but I am deliberately taking this example so that you are able to apply the Bloom's taxonomy. Now see, at the remember level, if I can ask a question like, name any 4 generations. Now just now I talked about 4 generations. So out of 6 generations or 7 generations, like greatest generation, baby boomer generation, Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, which is also known as snowflake generation. So out of 6 generations, if somebody can just name 4 generations, the job is done. Is it necessary or are they nonsense? Understanding question. In terms of purchasing preferences, use of technology, media consumption, and work demand, how generational groups differ. For example, there was a time, I was 34 or so. My niece had come and I had taken her to some shops, some, kiosk shops and all. And I said, you want something? She said, yeah, I want a kajal, eyeliner, kohl. I said, okay. I gave her some money and I think I had a 50 rupee note in my hand. हमारे ज़माने में 5 रुपए का 10 रुपए का काजल मिलता था. She just looked at me and she said, Masi, let it be. I said, what happened? She said, no, let it be. I'll take it later. Then I realized there was this body shop where the products start at minimum at that point of time, 700 rupees. A stick of kajal would come 700 rupees. Look at the generational groups in terms of purchasing preferences. The speed at which we learned Zoom during COVID, use of technology. Zoom was always available. Many of us were not even comfortable with Skype. The speed at which our parents got into online shopping during COVID. Application. Look at this question. Look at this question. I think many of you who would have young children, 13, 14 years, or younger brothers or sisters, or nieces and nephews, you must have heard them saying, okay, boomer. Now, is okay, boomer it's a hashtag. Is it a prerogative used to signify that you are out of touch with the progressive values? And something like this. Now, see, during COVID, very simple example. Let me take an English example. Could we have asked our English literature students to collect the speeches of top 4 presidents or prime ministers of countries and analyze their speeches in terms of sentimental value? What kind of words they used? What was the sentimental dimension of their speeches? Whether it was pessimistic, whether it was optimistic, how reassuring was that? Could we have asked our mathematics students to look at the R model given by the R square model, R factor given by the Johns Hopkins Institute of Medical Sciences, Johns Hopkins University? All mathematical models of prediction of number of cases of COVID failed. Agreed. If a prediction by Johns Hopkins University failed, where there are, divas of research sitting there, quantitative and qualitative research sitting there, how can I think about my mathematics student of BA, BSc, BCom dealing with that kind of equation? But if the person could just understand, what is this? How are they predicting? Do you think we really need an example for this? An exam for this? Just ask them to put up an assignment of 10 pages as to what they understand in terms of prediction of COVID cases. The sociologist could have asked or write an essay on reverse migration, reverse economic migration. The students of language could have been asked to, interview a couple of people around them online or offline, and then do a qualitative analysis of the kind of sentiments people had. Psychology students could have joined hands with them. But that is how we apply the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, let's change the pitch a little. So in the classroom, when you are sitting, when you are entering the classroom, obviously our objective is to be perfect. And the perfection has a ladder that you have to follow, which starts with purpose, followed by preparation, followed by presentation, followed by passion, and followed by personality. This can also be 5 P's of effective presentation. This could also be 5 P's of effective communication. I'm using it in terms of making your classrooms perfect. I think all of us know something about Pareto's law, 20/80.
Yes,
yeah. For example, 20% of people in any function, you have a college function, you have a college convocation, 20% of people will do 80% of work and 80% of people will do 20% of work. So those who do not know, now you know. Okay, so let's look at the left-hand side. The purpose and preparation are only 20% visible in the classroom. but it brings 80% credibility. Whereas presentation, passion, and personality are 80% visible in the classroom, the moment of truth. But they bring in only 20% of credibility because it comes over a period of time. You will never ask your teachers or your students will never ask you, what percentage, madam, you had in your graduation? They will never ask you this. It's given, it's taken for granted. So, presentation, passion, and personality, 80% visible in the classroom, but only carries 20% of efforts and credibility, whereas the purpose and preparation takes 80% efforts, time, energy, and is visible only 20%. Let's talk about purpose. Now, this is something that I would like all of you to take it to heart, mind, and soul. Every time that you enter your classroom, I do not know how do you enter. I know how I enter. I step at the threshold. I take 1 minute and very quickly send a prayer to my God. I normally go for Gayatri Mantra before I enter the classroom, asking for blessings so that the class is good. And after that, the moment you cross the threshold, you must have this in the invisible wall in front of you. You don't really have to write it in your classroom, but something must be flashing in your mind. Every class at the core is a communication effort. It's a communication incident. And every single class that you enter, you must have a single overarching communication objective. Sorry. It can be remembering, understanding, creation, analysis, evaluation, or anything of your own. For example, if I'm entering with a very boring topic today, or not all topics can be made very interesting, not all topics are very entertaining. Suppose I'm entering with a very, very stale topic. Say I'm talking about, the HR statutes. I have to talk about the PF law, I have to talk about maternity law, benefit act, I have to talk about minimum wages act, something that is very drab and I do not know how to go about it. So maybe my single overarching or communication objective could be my students must develop some interest in the subject because it's something that they would be needing in their lives. The moment they step onto the work world, they should know about the benefits that are accrued to them and they must know about the law that is there to protect them. So I normally start with something like, हम में से हर एक के जीवन में कम से कम 2 बार 7.5 जरूर आती है एंड पीपल स्टार्ट लाफिंग एंड ऐसे जब 7.5 आती है ना तो या तो आप लॉ के इस तरफ होते हैं या आप लॉ के उस तरफ होते हैं क्योंकि आप लॉ के या तो इस तरफ होंगे या उस तरफ होंगे तो आपको 2 चीजें जरूर मालूम होनी चाहिए law of natural principle of natural justice and red hot stove rule. And then I talk about those 2 rules and then I bring them to the legal aspect of things. कि भाई एक्ट क्या है, इसके salient features क्या हैं. And I'm very sure by the time my session ends, at least if I'm talking about Maternity Benefit Act, the women are listening because they know that in next 5 years they would be availing it, and the men are listening because they know that their better half would be availing it. Even if minimum wages does not pertain to them, they would know that if they are into an entrepreneurial venture, they have to ensure that the workers get minimum wages, otherwise they would be behind the bars. So single overarching communication objective. I would like you to observe this for a while. Few seconds. Please observe this. It's the back page of a classmate register. Okay, done. If you have a paper and pen in hand, then please start writing whatever you remember. Color, picture, word, whatever you remember. Start writing. If you don't write, just think about it. What all did you remember? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I bring you back to this. When I asked you to recall what all do you remember or write what all do you remember, some of you would have written a child with open mouth, classmate, puzzle, child safe, two in one, blue prominent color, yellow prominent color, a ulta wala cap. Some of you may have, noticed these four young children, not very privileged compared to this child. Some of you would have noticed the logo. Some of you would have noticed exercise book 172 pages. Some might even have seen the price of it. Some would have noticed that there's a scan code. Why we are talking about this? We are talking about this because those who noticed colors, those who noticed pictures, those who noticed logo, the scan code, those who noticed the big bubbles in which it was written two in one, puzzle, etc. These are people who are more visualizers. Those who noticed some words, real words. For example, if you notice things like ITC, 35 rupees, and maybe puzzle, and things which are words or numbers. These are verbalizers. Normally it is said visualizers are right brain oriented. Verbalizers are left brain oriented. Meaning thereby, our brain has two parts. Normally, it is said men have more evolved left brain, women have more evolved right brain. That is why women can multitask and men are so good with numbers. You must have seen in your home, if you are married, or if you have, a married set of parents or somebody at home, you would know the women of the house would be doing multiple things. Cutting lady finger, watching movie, she would know what is happening in the Saas Bahu drama. She would know there's cooker on the gas and there would be whistle going on, and she would be doing multiple things together. And if she hears somebody, some sabzi wala calling outside, dhania le lo, aloo le lo, and she thinks that my kitchen is running out of aloo and I need them, she will just say to the husband sitting side में पेपर पढ़ रहे हैं, उनको बोलेंगी आप जरा ध्यान रखना 3 सीटी होने पर कुकर बंद कर देना, मैं आलू लेके आती हूँ. A typical household scenario. And you will find after coming back, either the husband is sitting in attention position with the paper folded and counting 1, 2, 3. Or you will find the dal is burnt, the husband is forgotten. Why? Because men cannot, not all men, people who have men's mind, men's brain. You can have a man's brain, you means a lady can have a man's brain, a man can have a woman's brain. Why I'm talking about this? I'm talking about this because there's a very beautiful test on Google. Please note down. I can send it to Dr. Swati and she can further transfer it to you all. It's known as VARC typology. Please take this test. It's a teaching learning typology. The moment you take VARC test, you will realize you have one predominant profile or maybe two. V stands for visual, A stands for oral, R stands for read and write, K stands for kinesthetic. You will realize when you were a kid, the teachers whom you liked the most and the teachers who liked you the most, you had a compatible teaching learning style. Teachers who are visual, they use a lot of graphs, pictures and things, which make people visualize. Their style is storytelling style. Visual teachers are most compatible with visual learners. Oral teachers, oral students are teachers' darlings. Teachers love to talk, and people who are high on oral, they love to listen. उनको लेक्चर दीजिए. हमारे हमारी संस्कृति में पुरानी पहले जितना भी टीचिंग स्टाइल था, जितने भी हमारे एपिक्स हैं, वो या तो स्मृति के हैं या श्रवण के हैं, सुन के या याद करके पास ऑन किए गए हैं. सुन के पास ऑन किए, सुश्रुत या स्मृति, याद करके. जो बच्चों को सुन के अच्छा लगता है, आप में से जिनको बोलना अच्छा लगता है या सुनना अच्छा लगता है, वो कंपैटिबल है सबसे ज्यादा. I have a friend, a very brilliant friend, such an intelligent teacher. I have not seen a teacher better than her. Whenever she's going to the class, she will tell me our subjects are common. Whenever she's going to the class, she will come and tell me, Tanjul ma'am, आज मैं ना ये पढ़ाने वाली हूँ, आप ना इसके बारे में जरा 10 मिनट बोलो कुछ. मैं कहती हूँ क्या बोलो मैम, कुछ भी, जो भी अभी नया हो रहा है. And I will speak and she would listen. She understands best when she listens. Every new concept, she will listen on the YouTube. She's on Spotify. She subscribed to audiobooks. She hears to podcasts. I cannot hear. I'm a reader. The next one, read and write. I'm a reader. She would come to me and she would say, मैम ये ना रिसर्च पेपर मैं पढ़ रही थी, मुझे ना आई वांट टू, मेरे को थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, आप जरा मुझे बता दो कि इसमें ना ये ऐसा ऐसा बोलते हैं. आई टेल हर, सीमा जी वेट, give me the paper, I'll read it, you go to your class, lunchtime we will discuss. If she speaks about it, I will not comprehend. I comprehend best by reading and writing. And that is why I can take umpteen degrees online where I am given material to read. I will read. Synesthetic, people who can do and understand. Who can do and understand. When you take this test ना, उसमें की भी है. 16th वर्जन लीजिएगा, PDF वार्क PDF वर्जन 16 है शायद, 16 क्वेश्चंस हैं उसमें. बहुत ब्यूटीफुल क्वेश्चनर है. And you'll absolutely fall in love with this typology and you'll be able to appreciate why some students become your favorite. Why some students keep hovering around you. Why are we talking about this? Because this is the element of preparation. We have two minds. And whenever we are preparing our session, I'll take a very small 30-second break and ask you, are you with me and do you have any query or do you want me to change either my speed or my language or approach?
Ma'am, actually, I have, disabled unmuting. So I am with you. I am understanding. I am
Okay.
unmuting everyone for just 1 minute. If
30
they have a
seconds,
query,
yes.
they can get back to you.
Please.
Please, participants, you can unmute yourself and put up a query if you want. You can raise your hand first, and then ma'am can allow you to speak.
We will have questions later, but in case you think I need to change my approach, because we are just left with another 20 minutes or so I thought I will cross-check. Good to go?
I think yes. Can ma'am go on? I think the pace is okay, ma'am. If there's a issue, someone can put in the chat box and then we can rectify.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I start again. Whenever you are going for your class, when you prepare for your class, you can do multiple things, but you must keep some things in mind. One thing, there are learners who are different. Some like oral, some like reading, some like doing, some like visualizing. So classes must contain a mix of pedagogy for all 4 kinds of learners. If you go deep into psychology, there are psychometric tests available which will talk about not 4 but 40 types of learners. But in a class of 40, I cannot tailor make my session for everybody. But at least 4 different buckets. Please appreciate, you will see from the time that we have started this class, you have had an exercise, you have had an example, you are seeing something on the screen, and you are seeing me scribble my notes. Scribbling notes are for people who are read and write. My speaking is for people who are oral. When I asked you to see at that picture, and you'll be doing another exercise and you would know it, it's kind of aesthetic. So please appreciate whenever you enter your class, your paraphernalia. Your classes need to be a mix of multiple pedagogical instruments. Not pedagogical, but learning instruments. And second thing that you have to remember is keep the Aristotle's rhetorical triangle in mind. Our students are children in flesh and blood. They look for three things in whatever you say: ethos, logos, pathos. There got to be emotion, there got to be a reasoning or argumentation, and there got to be credibility. How do we use reasoning or argumentation? By quoting people. All of us know that, something is a weird thought. Every theory starts with a very, very weird thought. The thought then is given some momentum and becomes a concept. Then it is researched, then it becomes a hypothesis. Then it is researched, it becomes a theory. And then it becomes a grounded theory. Grounded theory has encompassed, it has gathered so much of mass and momentum that it becomes a absolute grounded theory which has some credibility, which has some logic. So the moment I quote, I could have said, you can have ethos, pathos, and logos. But the moment I said Aristotle has recommended a rhetorical triangle of communication, which is most useful. Now, who Tanjul? We do not know. You are meeting her for the first time. But Aristotle, you have never met him, but you know him pretty well. If Aristotle says something, there got to be some metal in that, some volume in that. Credibility. Why would Swati give such a long introduction? I was a little embarrassed listening to that introduction, although I was enjoying it also, because it was after a long time I was hearing. I had forgotten that I had done these degrees. When she asked me, I was in a very troubled social situation when she asked me for the brief biodata, brief CV. I just sent it without seeing it. But when she was talking about it, I was feeling happy. And I realized the moment she says, 3 decades of experience. Oh, yes, this lady would have some kuch to hoga, credibility. The moment she says, she comes from Johns Hopkins, or she has been associated with Johns Hopkins University. And then I talk about something to do with Johns Hopkins University, credibility and emotion. Look at the way I'm pleading with you, believe me when I say UGC did this, one child policy, 3 children policy. Behaving like a child sometime, but just to explain that this is very close to my heart. It is something that has come to me over a period of time through experiences of my colleagues and my teachers and my gurus and my instructors and my students. So while you are preparing, these 2 things are important, and something else is important. I would love to talk about this. This and the next one. While you are preparing your class, please remember you have 60 minutes or 90 minutes for every class. You will find, even in my today's class, you will find some of the topics I would leave towards the end because the time is a little short. Because when you are not bound by your syllabus, my today's session is not bound by a syllabus. I spent so much of time in explaining Bloom's taxonomy to you people. But when I take the similar session for UGC, induction session, I don't spend so much time on Bloom's taxonomy. I rather deal with some other things because I'm not bound by syllabus. But when we are bound by syllabus, we need to work upon time management. Now, what exactly does this mean? Nothing much, just a very quick framework. When you start your class, I believe if you give a very quick recap of what we did yesterday and how does it relate to the topic today, it helps. This is my experience. What we did yesterday or in the last class and how it relates. See, syllabus is syllabus for a reason. We cannot have the second semester subjects in the first semester. Unless the students have foundation of first semester, they will not be able to appreciate subjects of second semester. Similarly, in a textbook, if the chapters have a particular order, there is a very valid reason for that. And that reason needs to be explained to people. So, what we did yesterday, why we did that, and how does it relate to the session today? First 5 minutes. Don't go exactly by clock or watch, but just a common, commonsensical understanding. The next 10 minutes must go for remembrance and understanding. Harp it, beat it, whatever is the key term, the SOCO. Revise it, revisit it, reiterate it, repeat it at least half a dozen times. Today we are going to talk about this. Today we are going to talk about anism of Durkheim. Today we'll be talking about capitalism of Karl Marx. Capitalism, Karl Marx. At least half a dozen times in the next 10 minutes, you should be able to hammer it onto them that our today's topic surrounds this, so that they are able to, number one, get logos, some credibility, logic, and remember that this was the key takeaway today. We heard about a new philosopher and we heard about a person's new philosophy. Then take about 20 minutes explaining. 20 minutes explaining the concept. Cut to present. Anything that we are talking about is at least a month old. Some are 10 years old, some are a decade old, some are centuries old, depending on the subject. Photosynthesis is something that we have been hearing about for last 70, 80, 90, 100 years. History is beyond timelines. Philosophy, Socrates and all are beyond timelines. How does it pertain to present day? Because if students are not able to appreciate what was happening earlier, how is it relevant today, they will not be able to understand, appreciate, analyze, question, evaluate, create new knowledge. And if it is still in the syllabus, that means it is important. And you have been one person who is part of creation of the syllabus. So if a communication model of, sender and receiver and decoding and coding and medium is there, it is there. It is there for last 50 years. It would be there for another 50 years. But how is it relevant now? We need to, children should be able to appreciate it. And last 5 minutes, please help them, especially the 5% or the 2% who have promise of evaluating and creation. Give them food for thought. For example, if you have to, if people who are from sociology, economics, or management background, if you have to make students appreciate how was India before LPG, how is India after 1991, the journey from LPQ, license, permit, and quota Raj, to liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Leaving a suggestion like, please read Rohinton Mysteries, Such a Long Journey. It will tell you how India was. It will help you appreciate, and such a beautiful novel, A Fine Balance and Such a Long Journey by the favorite author Rohinton Mistry. If in 20 sessions you have said something 20 times, maybe nobody picks it up. Say, for example, after today's session, nobody picks up this book that I am talking about. Nobody searches Bloom's taxonomy. Nobody searches Vark typology. Nobody searches Amish's Shiva trilogy. In 1 hour, I have talked about 5 books or resources, and none of you go and touch those resources. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The cue is in the environment. At some point of time, 30 days from now, 300 days from now, Shinu or maybe Tina is just going around and she is standing at the airport and she finds Amish trilogy and she just picks it up. Why? Somebody talked about it. Who? She doesn't remember. But she reads it. So a cue that I have sent in the environment fructifies later. Some of you must be thinking I'm talking about the book Secret by Rhonda Byrne. The thought is being manifested. Just leave it. Leave for 5 minutes. You must leave things with the students. The only very evolved ones in your subject would be able to pick up the cue at some point of time in their life. But believe me, when they pick this up, their life is made and your salvation is done. That is time management. So I think it's already 7:50. I'll take 5 more minutes and then we can take up the questions. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Similarly, please superimpose this by use of board. One of my mathematics teacher in standard 8, when I was in standard 8, my mathematics teacher, he would come and he would divide the board into 6 parts. He would write on this side what he taught yesterday. He would teach what he was supposed to teach today here. He would explain the concept, talk about the origin. Even in a subject like mathematics, he would talk about the origin. कि कहाँ से पहली बार सब्जेक्ट है, पाइथागोरस थ्योरम कहाँ से आया, क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन कहाँ से आया. He would talk about the origin of the subject, he will explain the concept, and he would solve a couple of problems here. Then he would rub the whole board and he would write a mathematical problem here. The moment he's done with writing a mathematical problem here, he would write a mathematical problem here, which was a shade difficult than this one. And he would write a mathematical problem on this side, which is a shade less difficult than this one. So when he writes a problem here, he would say, or tell all the students, okay, start solving this. Then he would write a problem here and he would say, those who have solved this, try this. And then he would come here and he would say, those who are struggling with it, agar aapko nahi samajh mein aa raha, aap pehle ye wala problem solve karo. Now look at the beautiful way this gentleman was able to engage the whole class of 60 students simultaneously. All of us are doing this problem. People like me who were very good in maths, we would be in, we would know that a more engaging problem is here. So I would immediately do this problem and navigate here. The students who are not everyone is smart in every subject. I'm very poor in social studies. I'm very poor in history. Now I'm good in history because I've read a lot of novels and books in history. So this was my strength. Language was my strength. So I would get, challenged. I'll go here. And then he would say, those who have done this, please help people who are struggling here. He would never ridicule anybody. Here he would write how this mathematics problem is applicable in the real world. And here he would write something that would intrigue you to pursue the subject further. My interest in mathematics was thanks to Dr. Lokhande of Kendriya Vidyalaya Nasik Road. Believe me, my Nasik Road school time was the best time. I was there from 5th standard to 8th standard, and I salute Maharashtra for the quality of education that they have. I had a teacher by name Mrs. Bhupatkar. She was a Hindi teacher, and she would, tell us, say for example, there's this kavita, ye kadam ka peda karma hota yamuna tire, main bhi is par baith kanaiya banta धीरे धीरे, ले देती यदि मुझे बांसुरी तुम दो पैसे वाली, किसी तरह नीचे हो जाती यह कदम की डाली. Imagine my middle class, at least 50 poems and 100 shlokas I remember by heart even today, thanks to my Sanskrit teacher, Mrs. Bhopatkar. She would make us, make in our notebooks a kadam ka ped. And she will ask us to paste our picture here and a lady's picture or mom's picture here. And next day she would take us under a tree. There was a chabutra, she would take us there. She would make us sit here, close our eyes, and then recite this poem. इतना सुरीला कंठ था उनका, इतना सुंदर गाती थी. गा के सुनाती थी हमको और बोलती थी इमेजिन करो तुम कृष्ण हो, ऊपर बैठे हो, नीचे तुम्हारी माँ है, तुम्हें बुला रही है। और हम सब कृष्ण बन जाते थे, हम कृष्ण बन जाते थे, हम सोचते थे और पूरी पूरी पोयम सुनाती थी हमको। नाउ नाउ लुक एट द वार्क यूसेज। हमने ड्रॉ भी कर लिया, हम जाके बैठ भी गए, हमने विजुअल भी बना लिया, हमने सुन भी लिया, हमने पढ़ भी लिया, वार्क पूरा यूज में आ गया। शायद उनको मालूम भी नहीं था वार्क नाम की कोई चीज होती है। दिस इज बोर्ड मैनेजमेंट। आई विल वेरी क्विकली कम टू पैशन। दिस ऑल वाज ऑन ये जो जितना भी अब तक मैंने आपको बताया वो सब प्रिपरेशन का था। These are resources for passion. You have to develop your passion repository, and going by the new education policy, this has to be interdisciplinary. No subject can work in isolation. No subject. आज आप घर पे जाके एक चीज देखिएगा, आपका ब्रेन कैसे काम करता है और ब्रह्मांड की एक डायनामिक समथिंग थ्योरी, यूनिवर्स थ्योरी है। आप दोनों की पिक्चर देखेंगे, आपको लगेगा बिल्कुल सेम पिक्चर है। अहम ब्रह्मस्मि, मैं ही ब्रह्मांड हूं। जैसा मेरा मस्तिष्क है वैसा ही मेरा ब्रह्मांड है। Why I am saying this? I have never been an astronomy student. I'm an astrology student. I'm a science student, physics. Now I'm a management student. But no subject is not interdisciplinary. Astrology and astronomy and science are all mixed. You come from any stream, you must have lots of stories and ideas and anecdotes, stories and ideas and anecdotes and humor and jokes and examples and similes and fluency. I was so happy to listen to Miss Tina and Miss Swati. They are so fluent in their language. I have struggled a lot with my fluency and language, but when I see young generation, being so fluent, I'm so happy. But those who are not, doesn't matter. Things can be improved. Try a lot of tongue twisters. Betty bought a bit of butter was bitter, so she bought some better butter to make the bit of butter better. Peter Piper picked up a pickled pepper. Did Peter Piper pick up a pickled pepper? Yes, Peter Piper picked up a pickled pepper. Every consonant sound and every vowel sound you can find on Google a lot of tongue twisters. The more you practice 5 tongue twisters every day, your diction will become clear. And if you suffer from that problem of what I mean to say was, your problem would be gone. Fluency. Passion by stories, ideas, anecdotes, humor, jokes, examples. And finally, personality. These are all, you will see hyperlinks, but we are not using them. I'll be sharing the PowerPoint presentation with Swati. She will forward it to you all. You can look at them. These are all folders on my desktop, but you will also find them by the clip. You can find this, title. Please listen to them. Why we are talking about it is, Shivani has a very different personality from Kumar Vishwas, who has a very different personality from Sadhguru, who has a very different personality from Devdutt Patnaik, who has a very different personality from Bill Gates. But if you look at their presence in that on the dais in front of the mic, I'm very sure many of you have been listening to Kumar Vishwas. Look at the way he speaks. Look at the command on the language. Look at the way Sadhguru speaks. Right or wrong, I'm not into that debate. Shivani, her speed, she speaks so beautifully. Her voice is like honey and dew in your ears. So we need to, develop a personality. You cannot be Shivani. You cannot be Sadhguru. I cannot be Swati. I cannot be Tina. But I have to be my own style. So your own personality. Over a period of time, you'll develop a very beautiful personality, and anybody passing by your class would be able to hear you and say, okay, this is this teacher speaking. I know her style. I know her voice. I know her language. Yeah, that ends our effective classrooms. There were more slides, but not for you. So let's stop here. And I would request the coordinators to kindly take up from here and see how do we field the questions, please.
Yes, ma'am. So it is a requested to all the participants, and it's informed. I've unmuted. You can unmute yourself, ask a question, raise your hand so that we can go one by one. Any question you can put in the chat box. You can ask. Ma'am, there's one question I'd like to put up when you were talking about the passion part.
Yep.
So, it happens that we learn a lot when you go out and we see, we observe and we interact. Now, to bring that to the class and to deliver it effectively, do I bring in passion or I bring in every element that you just spoke about?
That's very interesting. See, most of us are very seasoned teachers already, and some of us are very young over here. Now, over a period of time, we start understanding our cohort characteristics. Say, for example, I'm teaching one subject in two sections, but the cohort composition is different. So I would know that in one of the sections, I can use humor, and they would take it in the right spirit. Whereas in the other section, the same concept, if I teach with hardcore, rigorous subject matter, they would be more comfortable.
Right.
So the repository that we have already created by our observation, by our readings, by our conversations, by our all kind of nuances that are there in the environment. It depends on how do we bring it in our classroom, which will come over a period of time. It's a little risky zone. Risky zone in the sense that if we enter into the classroom, if we permit our all observations to come into the classrooms can become chaotic, and they may not deliver the hardcore theory that needs to be delivered. But keeping in mind principles of adult learning, every 8 to 10 minutes, the adult students lose concentration. So every 8 to 10 minutes, we need to change our pedagogy. Either we need to raise a question, or we need to share an anecdote, or we need to share a joke, or we need to tell a story, or we need to tell an application aspect. Otherwise, they will not be in the class for the next 40 minutes or so. So depends on the texture of the class, the flavor of the class. Say, if, for example, nowadays, for the first time, I'm teaching undergrad students. So I'm taking principles of management both with undergrad and postgrad. Same topic, same subject. What I can talk about in my master's class, my undergraduate class will not be able to appreciate the iota of it. So I take that, the crow and the water story, start from there, or maybe Alice in Wonderland, and she is on the crossroads and she's saying, where do I go from here? So the cat says, you do go wherever you want to go. If you tell me where do you have to go, then I'll tell you where to go. This is planning. So I start from there.
Right.
But when I talk about the same planning to my management students, I start talking about, suppose I want to launch this course. What all planning I need to do? So the examples are different.
Right.
Yeah, that way.
Anybody else? You can unmute yourself and ask any question.
I think it was a little heavy. I hope I was able to meet my mandate. I do not know.
Yes, you were, ma'am. Not an issue at all. So I don't see any questions coming up. So I would request our IQC coordinator, Miss Assistant Professor Tina, ma'am, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Swati, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. As we come to the end of this enriching 5-day online faculty development program, focusing on the national education policy and skill-based education pedagogical options, I, Assistant Professor Tina Kodin, the IQC coordinator, would like to extend a sincere vote of thanks to all involved. First and foremost, a sincere appreciation goes to our esteemed speaker for today, Dr. Tanjul Saxena. Your expertise has been instrumental in deepening our understanding of curating effective classrooms using Bloom's taxonomy. Ma'am, your explanation, you could deliver it in a very 100%. You're delivering the complete meaning of and the applicability of Bloom's taxonomy. That is what was the objective of today's session. And Further, I would like to extend my thanks to the management of our institution for their invaluable support and leadership. Further, I would like to extend my thanks to our principal, Dr. Babika Khargira ma'am, for providing immense support to make this FDP successful. A special word of thanks to the organizing committee and the support staff who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure smooth functioning of this FDP. We did have a meticulous planning, coordination, and attention to detail that has made this event a resounding success. And last but not the least, I extend my personal gratitude to each and every participant for your active involvement, dedication, and commitment to professional development. Once again, thank you everyone who has been a part of this memorable journey. Your contributions have truly made a difference, and we look forward to continued collaboration and learning opportunities in future. Thank you everyone. Have a good night. Participants, I would request everyone to fill the feedback form. I suppose it has come in the chat box.
Thank you so much. May I please leave? And Swati, whatever I promised to share with you, I would, so that you people can pass it on to the learning group. Right?
Yes, ma'am, surely.
Thank
Thank you so much for joining, ma'am. It was
God bless
wonderful.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I leave, will you have to close the session? Like, is it okay? I'm not the host now, so I can leave.
Yes, ma'am. No, not an issue at all.
Thank you, Vita. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Vita.
Participants,
ma'am.
feedback has come now.
Feedback has come. Yes, thank you.
And fill it.